How we doing, guys? Jay here from Just Technics. We're going to talk about the M5G model in this video. It's not going to be very long. It doesn't even need to be very long. But the chances are, if you own a pair of Technics M5Gs, you will struggle with beat mixing. Or you are at the moment, or you definitely will if you buy a pair. In standard trim, they are a nightmare. I don't care what anybody says, they are horrific for beat matching. You can pretty much buy the cheapest of the cheap turntable for the 90s and put it in comparison to an M5G for beat mixing, and you will be struggling on the M5G a hell of a lot more than you will do with a basic belt drive turntable from the early 90s. Put it into comparison, it's a bit like mixing on a pair of straight 150 Stanton turntables, RP7000s, or any modern turntable that's on the market. So it's anything that's super OEM. If you ever used anything like that, the M5G reacts in a very, very similar way to these turntables. It's a very easy thing to solve. Now, it's a free modification. It takes all of about 20 seconds to do once you have the plastic cover and the platter off of the deck. You haven't got to go ripping the turntable apart to do this. It's no hidden secret with this, and I complete this modification for free to any of my customers that bring these turntables into me for a service. So I don't even charge for this mod. It's not worth charging, but it's a game changer. Best way of describing it is this. If you are trying to mix in a track, and the track you're trying to mix is too slow, of course you're going to speed the track up, yeah? You find that you get it just about where it needs to be, and it starts to sync together, and it's great. So if you imagine this is your track you're trying to bring in, you get it down and down and down, it's nearly there, and then all of a sudden you keep moving it, nothing's happening, and the next thing you know, your track's too fast. So you have to slow it down, it's too slow. There's no happy medium. There's no making them lock perfectly because of the steps involved with digital stepping. It's a nightmare. With the old MK2, M3D, and the Mark 5B in the analog series, they are a different beast altogether, but the M5G and the Mark 6 both share the same pitch and both have this issue. So as I say, it's a very easy thing to do. There are two ways of doing this, and I'm going to show you on the board right now. Then I'm going to show you the turntable. So give me a second, I'm going to pause the video. Okay, so this is an old Mark II board. Someone's worked on this previously. There's a few parts on here that I've taken off. The board's junk, basically. The traces underneath are broken from what I remember, but this is a good example. Similar layout with the M5G, different colour, different connectors, but there's only one component that we need to be worried about, and that is TP17. It's a resistor in the bottom right-hand corner of the board. Now, when I say there's two ways of doing this and completing this modification, you can either snip one of the legs of the resistor, but don't do it right to the end. Do it halfway in between and do it very carefully. Once that's snipped, you can then pull the resistor up slightly so it's facing up, and then pop a little bit of heat shrink around it. Maybe put a little bit of heat on there. They actually put the heat shrink on, and that way you know that this is fully covered, the leg's not exposed, it's not going to cause any issues. The other reason why you would do it like this is so that if you ever want to reverse this modification, you could simply push the resistor back down and put a tiny bit of solder in between the leg that's soldered on the board and to the resistor to bridge the connection. That's one way of doing it, or the other way, if you're going to be permanently doing this, is take the board out completely, flip the board around, find a TP17 on the board, which if I get my light here so you can actually see it on here, you can see here TP17. You can just desolder the 2 points for the solder pads and then take the resistor out completely. It does exactly the same thing as it would do if you snip the resistor. It just means that if you don't want the hassle of having to physically take the board out to pop the resistor back in, you just snip the legs and do it that way. Very simple to do. By doing this, it bypasses the quartz, completely deactivates it, and it does this. Let me show you this right now. So with an M5G, I've got two of these here for a customer. I've completed the lock bypass. So if we look at this now, there's two things that will happen. One, your zero position will be slightly higher up. Now, there isn't a great deal that you can do about this. Okay, there is a pot on the board itself because these particular turntables were designed so that you could physically replace the pitch slider board and pitch or you desoldered the slider from the board itself and then change the slider over, which is what we do with these now. So you can put the pot in the maximum position. That's how they describe with the service manual anyway, but you'll find it will be slightly off from the 0 position. Not by much, but it is a little bit. Second thing to note, your reset switch will not be working anymore. It will work, but it won't be keeping things static and steady at 0. So for beat matching, this is the one thing that you do. Like I say, plastic cover off, platter off, slip mat, everything off with the power off and the plug out of the wall. Very important. So all the power removed, platter off, plastic cover underneath off. 5 screws that hold that in, lift it off. Very easy. Bottom right hand corner, you'll see TP17 that I've just shown you on a Mark II board. They're all exactly the same. And then all you do, snip that. Like I say, heat shrink will take the resistor out completely. Everything back on again in the wall. Turn the turntable on and see what you're playing with. So at the moment now, we've got the turntable at the 0 position. It's now dedicated on here. And like I say, it is slightly off. As you can see, it's about halfway between 0 and 1%. 0 and +1. Okay. But the good thing about this as well, with a lot of M5Gs, you'll notice that the platter does tend to stammer or stutter if you move it in any other position other than 0. So if we move it in the 3.3 position now, doing this one-handed the other way is a bit of a nightmare, but if we do this like that, as you'll see now, it's completely removed any stammering or stuttering. Very common on these turntables. Very common indeed. So it smooths everything out, which is already a +1 in your book for mixing. It also means if you want to slow down your track by touching the platter, you hardly need any effort. So look, you've still got plenty of power there, plenty of torque, but when you brush your finger across it, you've got to do it lightly. Look at the strobe dots. If I put this at 0, hang on. There we go. Now if I brush my finger across the platter, it's not fighting. What you normally see when you do this is this. Your dot's jumping. Because if you're touching something that's spinning around, and say even if you're at 0, the actual turntable's thinking to itself, why am I playing at this speed when I should be playing at a faster speed? So why am I playing at -4 when I touch the platter and it should be at 0? So it tries to correct itself, which is a good thing. Not with these. So it completely removes any fighting in terms of the turntable trying to correct its speed, and it gradually goes back to the speed you designated on the pitch control. Same thing goes with the actual the spindle itself. If you pinch the spindle, look at the strobe dots. If I do this very lightly, look. Now imagine you've got your channel faders open and you're mixing 2 tracks together, and you've got a track that's just a hair out. You literally just grab your fingers and just twist it slightly. There's no heavy-handedness, no having to go like that, or trying to keep things in, or stabbing the side of the platter. This is a game changer for people. The only reason I never told anybody about this before over the years is I don't want people doing this wrong and causing themselves any damage. But we're in 2024 now, guys, and let's be honest, it is a very simple thing to do. And as always, they're your turntables. If you wish to do this off your own bat, you're more than welcome to. It's your own problem if you get it wrong or if you snip the wrong resistor. But if you take your time, it doesn't take very long. And trust me, the minute you put these back together and you do your first mix, I can pretty much guarantee that you will not actually want to reverse the modification. Like I say, it's a resistor. Just bypassing that resistor solves all of your problems. You will be locking mixes much easier. Scratching is not a problem on these. I cannot believe the amount of people that whenever I used to complete this particular modification on Mark IIs or any of the older units, they used to go, yeah, it's great, but it ruins scratching, it changes the settings, the torque. Look, I mean, I have absolutely no problem with scratching on these decks because I scratch myself. And if it was a problem, I'll be the first one to say to you, do not do it. I have no issues at all. And let's be honest, if you really want it super slippery and you love the way it acts, and maybe it's a little bit too light and heavy, then you put a plastic slip sheet underneath them, or you buy some of those Dr. Suzuki slip mats that are designed for scratching. But in general, you will not have any problems. It makes life a lot easier moving forward. And if you're got one of these types like I was that had a set of M5G sitting in a corner, with the covers on, with other turntables on top of them, with these not being used purely for the fact if you don't even want to record mixers on them, I can guarantee these will be the center stage next to your mixer and will be used all the time. I loved my M5Gs when I completed this modification, and it just transforms them into the Grandmaster that they should have been anyway. So all of you out there with M5Gs, like I say, take your time. It's a simple modification to do, and you will not regret it at all. And that's pretty much it, guys. It's very, very easy to do. Like I say, pair of electrical snips, and a Phillips screwdriver. Make sure the power is out of the wall before you do anything at all, as it's a live circuit. So power out of the wall, platter off, so slip mat, platter off, plastic cover off. 5 screws for the plastic cover. You cannot get it wrong. You haven't got to desolder anything else. All you have to do is snip the legs of one resistor or physically desolder the resistor and take it out if you plan on doing it permanently. If you are more electronically confident with this sort of thing, you could just desolder the resistor and keep it in a safe place, just for the fact of it looks cleaner. And if you ever want to put it back to a standard trim, you just get the resistor, put it back in, solder the legs in, job done. It's not exactly rocket science, is it, if you're that way inclined? So, like I say, you can try and adjust the pot on the pitch itself. So you can undo where the actual pitch control is sectioned on the deck. There are 2 screws there designed to be able to remove the slider. You can then move the slider up, declip the wiring harness, and then move the pot to its maximum position. But in my experience with this, no matter how many times you move that slider pot, you still have that little gap distance. But the main thing is that they're about the same on both sides. Both of these turntables, they both stop at the same position between 0 and 1, halfway between. And like I say, game changer for mixing, super easy to do. You will be extremely happy with the modification, and it's cost you absolutely nothing. So I hope this helps, and I just beg you now, if you have M5Gs, do this, because you will not regret it. I've been doing this for years for customers and my own turntables. And like I say, I'll put a mix up to one of my mixes that I completed many years ago now on my M5Gs, mixing hard house, hard trance, that sort of thing. I'll scratch on them as well. There's no issues whatsoever. There we go. That's basically it, guys. Nothing else you need to know. Just anybody that tells you that they can mix on M5Gs without this modification done, and I'm talking long blends, and they tell you they do not touch the pitch or the platter or pinch anything, and they can just let them blend, they're lying. And trust me, they are lying to you, because you can see it. Watch any video of anyone using modern turntables, their hand is glued, they are constantly touching things. This changes everything. People have been doing it for years, and now you can to yours too, free of charge. You've seen what to do on the board. Go and get it done. Jobs are good, and I'll see you on the next video, guys.